Major funding for these programs is made possible by grants from Capital One Bank, New York Community Bank, Eastern Consolidated, M&T Bank, Customers Bank, Meridian Capital Group, Terra CRG, the Wickoff Group, Perfect Building Maintenance, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Commercial Mortgage Lending, Ariel Property Advisors, Genova Burns. Additional support is made possible by AKA Hotels, Corman Communities, AmTrust Title, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Citizens Bank, Connect One Bank, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Fisher Brothers, Flushing Bank, Friedman, LLP, Hendler Real Estate Organization, Hersha Hospitality, HAP, Investment Developers, Hodges Ward Elliott, Inc., Investors Bank, iFunding, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Madison Realty Capital, Matone Group, Mercantile Commerce Bank, New Banks, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Pulcinelli, Rosewood Realty Services, SJP Properties, Sterling National Bank, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, The Continuum Company, the Knackle Group at Cushman and Wakefield, the Meringoff Family Foundation, the Moynihan Group, and these friends.
Co-living, co-sharing, co-working, all these new titles, all these new worlds. Okay, people living together, working together, cohabitating, co-working. I don't know. It's something. It's a big discussion today. So today I've assembled these three individuals to provide their insight on this emerging trend. My guests include Michael Rudin, who is the Vice President at Rudin Management, Jay Heydt, who is Managing Director of Madison Realty Capital, and last but not least, the man who gives the money to certain people, Matt Petrula, who is the Group Vice President and Head of New York City Real Estate for M&T Bank. So you have a unique position. You're an owner of many office buildings and apartment buildings. You have 2,500 residential apartments, of which you said to me about 10% may be shared by people. And you are also the landlord owner of a building at 110 Wall Street, where you have a co-working company called WeWork, a co-living company called WeWork also, WeLive. On this side, we have an individual who spent close to 20 years of his career in the business of leasing space, and now he's with a company, a developer private equity firm, who leases space and has people who share apartments. Yep. And now we have the banker over here who lends money to certain selective people. How has the experience been for Rudin Management to be in the co-working and the co-share and co-living?
Well, WeWork has created a very dynamic brand for themselves over the last 5 or 6 years, whatever it's been. And when we were presented with the opportunity to reposition 110 Wall, and we're introduced to Adam and Miguel and the WeWork team, we were a little cautious at first, but over time got comfortable with them and their company and their brand, and looking at 110 Wall and what we were going to do there post Hurricane Sandy. They brought to the table a very unique repositioning possibility for us, and so it was a complex deal. We've never net leased an entire building before. We've never had that sort of mix of uses, right, where you have office in the base and residential in the tower. But we got comfortable over time and were able to make the deal work. And the WeWork space has been open for about a year now. Actually, it opened last October, and the WeLive portion opened at the beginning of this year. So it's been 10 months or so, and it all seems to be going very well.
Let's address the WeLive, because certain people might, we were just talking before, certain people might look at it as a co-sharing. And in essence, you're saying each person has their own room or their own apartment.
Yeah, they're all
with certain amenities built into.
They're all individual apartments, and those range from single bed units to 3-bedroom units, and sort of everything in between. You can have what would be considered a sort of a typical studio,
Right.
but that has a 2-bed setup in it, so that you can have 2 tenants within the same studio apartment. But what the concept behind WeLive and what they've taken from the WeWork model is, shrinking the footprint of the typical space that somebody uses for their own, whether it be office or apartment, and increasing the amount of amenity space on a given floor within a given building, and using that as sort of the shared model where people can
Let's
come
discuss
together
and
and
share the amenities, and then I want to get to Jay. So what amenities are they providing to the?
So they've grouped every 3 floors into what they call a neighborhood. So they put an interconnecting stair for every 3 floors, and it's a mix of a sort of a communal living space. So movable sofas and drop-down TV screens, but can also be repurposed for a fitness studio on one floor. On the second floor, there's usually a commercial-grade kitchen with a bunch of tables and cooking areas and kegs and refrigerators and all that kind of stuff. And then on the third floor, they have, which I think is pretty cool, a laundromat, but that also has arcade games, pool tables, ping pong tables, shuffleboard, and seating area. So it's a sort of a communal hangout space where you can go, you can throw your laundry in, and then play a game of ping pong with your neighbor or somebody on the floor above you. And again, it's just all this sort of communal type space.
And in the basic bedroom, there is a bed, probably a dresser for a closet.
There's all the stuff you would get in a normal apartment.
No.
The closets, the storage.
I've seen, and I'm going to ask Jay.
Sure.
I've seen, in the Lower East Side, or I've seen in Murray Hill and other places, apartments that basically the room that was adjusted is just the room for a bed. When you ask about a closet, someone would give me the proverbial comment, hook over there.
No, all these units have closets. They have refrigerators. They have cooktops. They have sinks. Each unit has its own individual bathroom. Now, whether it's a single bed unit or a 4-bed unit, you could have a bathroom to yourself, or you could be sharing it with 3 other people. It depends on which type of setup you're looking for, how much you're willing to spend on any given month, for rent. And then, whether it's a Nook bed or a Murphy type bed or a regular bed, there's a sort of variety of different setups that they offer.
Television also in the room?
Televisions come standard. Apple TVs come standard. It comes basically, linens come standard. You basically come in off the street with your backpack and your suitcase, throw it down, and you're good to go. All the cutlery.
And it's a month-to-month lease.
Month to month, multiple months, a year long. It provides the sort of the ultimate flexibility for millennials and people who are looking or not sure where they want to be, where they want to live, where their next job is going to be. So it's it's the ultimate in flexibility.
So tell us about sharing.
Well, I think that the share market, has evolved through the years. It really was very popular, like you said, on the Lower East Side and Murray Hill. That's been, was predominantly, when I started in the business, that's where everyone wanted to live. And then as time went on and there were fire code issues pertaining to these doorman buildings where they could not convert these 1-bedrooms anymore to 2 bedrooms, it kind of paved the way to other neighborhoods to start these share situations. So, anywhere that's like where I call prime, south of 23rd Street, north of Houston, so the East Village, West Village, Greenwich Village, all of these areas opened up for share situations, which would be primarily in buildings that were walk-up buildings and elevator buildings. And a lot of these owners, and including Madison today, is we're spending a lot of money on these types of buildings that are walk-up and elevator buildings and making them very functional and with super high-end renovations that are probably better than most
and you're
dormant.
you're making them more efficient.
Right, so we're making them more
under
functional.
the codes, under legitimate, building codes. Some certain apartments, which might have been a 1-bedroom at one time, become a 3-bedroom based on the use.
So the value that we look for, that value add is, yes, looking at a building and seeing, a 550 square foot studio that has windows both on the north side and the west side, like we can develop that into potentially a 2-bedroom.
So here's a question for a landlord. Now we put him on his other side of the hat as a residential owner. Have you done that on any of your buildings? Reconfigure the size of an apartment so you could have larger apartments today?
I mean, people over the years, they combine apartments. They, start off as a single or a couple, whatever it may be, and then they grow and have a family.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in some of your buildings, and I know some of the buildings, the apartments, the large 1-bedroom, was larger than needed because in today's world that could be a 2-bedroom.
Correct.
Reconfiguring.
And you had light and air, and you had the capability.
We haven't gone and done it ourselves, but we have plenty of situations where tenants have come in or potential tenants and said, hey, this is a large 1-bedroom. I want to bring in and split the cost and live with a roommate. Can I put up a temporary wall? Can I figure out some situation where I can add a second sort of bedroom? So it defers the cost a little bit, but that's not something that we go and do proactively on our own.
As an example, in a lot of Rudin buildings, you have an alcove dining area that they make into the second bedroom,
Exactly.
which has always been great for families. But for us, we'll look at a building that's 1,000 square feet and it was situated as a 1-bedroom, and we will see this really big kitchen, and it doesn't make sense. And we're going to take the kitchen out of that room, make that into a bedroom, and put the kitchen into a huge living room to make the flow even more functional.
But I also think, and then I'm going to go to the banker, I also believe that the tenant who moves to a share apartment may be different than the tenant who is living in a co-living space.
I agree.
Question: you're the banker. You have 2 categories over here, and I know that you're also the lender to Rudin Management on 110. How do you look at the co-living concept and the sharing? Because you also lend to many people who do this.
Absolutely.
To a large number of residential owners.
Sure. So it always starts with sponsorship for us, right? And a long-standing customer, someone or a reputable customer, someone who has the staying power, cycle tested, all of those things. Investing their own equity in an asset is important to us. Beyond that, we do extensive underwriting of the rents. So I want to be certain that whether it's a co-living situation or a sharing situation, that the rents can be replicated in a future lease to the extent that that scenario doesn't work out. I want to make certain that I can underwrite to a rent that can be replicated in the future, and that keeps me out of trouble.
But in the specific example of 110 Wall, it's the sponsor who has the credibility and the strength. That's one. It's also the tenant who's signed the master lease, WeWork, who has raised enormous money on their capital. So it's a situation. What happened if it was Mike Stoller? and I liked the idea, and I brought together a couple of people, and I wanted to try to replicate. Okay, I'm going to go on both sides because I want to talk about the co-working, which in a way is the evolution of the old Regus office share.
Right.
And what happened, somebody said to me recently, who happened to be on a panel with somebody from WeWork, and I was moderating it, RXR, in their previous life, Rexon, owned Regus, and it went bankrupt. And it's the timing, recessions, everything is timing element. Because as my friend Ofer Yerdeni said in 2009 when he was on a show and on a panel, he said, when people weren't working, they spent more time in their apartment. They spent more time cooking. So my gas bill went up. He said my hot water went up because they took more showers. They were there more often. It's a different case. It's a climate that we're living in. How do you look at co-working?
Co-working is a very, like you said, it's an evolution of a model that's been around for 20 plus years. And so, we look at it if the opportunity is right for a building of ours and the company is right, if it's WeWork or somebody else, and we want to look at it and say, hey, do these guys provide a sort of a viable, tenant option for us to lease up some space? We'll take a serious look at it.
But weren't you really going back years ago? Okay, you were a kid, but your dad and your grandfather went into the co-working when you did 55 Broad.
It was more of a sort of a event space, but yes.
Right. It was an event space.
We took the entire 4th floor and turned it into what we called the digital sandbox, which was a sort of a predecessor to the Convenes of the world, which take underutilized conference facilities and sort of underutilized space and turn it into.
But it was a co-working. It was
co-working.
It was
shared facility.
It was a shared facility.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It was the digital technology. It was coming in. It was like 1999, 2000, 2001 when the world went crazy. It went out of business. Not you did.
Yeah.
Many of these companies went out of business. And there was a company I remember called TechSpace. And TechSpace is still around, but they've never really grown because they didn't have the capital over there. Right. But the people have been in office shares for years.
Yeah.
I remember once I was at 521 Fifth Avenue, in one of these things. And in addition, there are people like Joe Moynihan, Larry Silverstein, who has Silver Office Suites, where they build these suites in a co-working situation. So, what differentiates today the new breed of co-working space to the old co-working space? How would you say that?
I think it's really about amenities and, the experience that's being provided, right? Regis, as I would say, has a bit more of a corporate type feeling.
Stuffy.
A little stuffy. WeWork and, other similar type models are appealing, not that they're, wouldn't take a company who's more well established, but they're really appealing to the younger generation, the millennial generation, who, don't necessarily care that they have a massive office. They want a more sort of confined footprint for where they're going to be working, and then they want this, robust amenity package where, they've got the great coffee bar and they've got the keg on every floor, and they can, they don't have to pay for the physical space of a conference room, but they know that if they ever need a conference room, it's part of their rent package, and they can go and work in one or another and sort of book the time as they need it, as opposed to dedicating resources and capital to paying for that on a yearly basis and only using it a couple times a month, whatever it may be. But it's also about the community and the people that you meet and the people that you're sitting next to and the network and the ability to go into another space when you're in another city and swipe your WeWork card and be able to plop down and use a desk and,
but you can
and
also
expand
do that
your
with
footprint.
With Regis and some of the other office
Sure.
shares. They have different type. On 3rd Avenue, they have a location right near my office, and it's a Regis, and it's basically you can pay $39 a month.
Right.
You can walk in, you can make use of the computers, you have the internet, you bring your own computer, and then you can have coffee and so on. So there are different levels of co-working availability.
But I think though that WeWork really transformed the game because that experience is just totally different. Regis doesn't have all those bells and whistles. And I also think as a result of WeWork, companies today in general, especially these technology companies, have these open working environments anyway. Like everyone is following the same theme. Like it's not about having your private offices anymore. It's about being out in front,
collaborative space.
transparent. That's what most people want.
In the same manner,
True.
the changing of the taxi business with the Uber, the Lyft, the Juno, and the Get is changing the world, okay?
That's right.
There are certain owners who we know in New York who say, I don't want this in there. I'm worried about the potential recession or something like that.
Right.
How do you look at that?
Yeah, not all that differently than from any other tenant concentration, right? So if I have a building that is fully leased
But
to...
you're basically a risk-adverse bank.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Well,
No.
by
That's
definition.
why you're so successful.
Right, sure.
Okay, you don't take the risk that certain other banks take, charging 5%, 6%?
But I have to say, I think we can get also at the same time very entrepreneurial for our good customers, and so it's sort of a tale of two cities, right? I mean, generally we have a very strong credit culture and credit performance. At the same time, we were very excited to be Rudin's lender at 110, and really they're a pioneer there as well. As the WeLive rather was the first location. No one really knew how well it was going to work. I think we believed in the model and some of the barriers to entry. That this is a lower barrier to entry business. I think you sort of touched on that before. There were a lot of providers, landlords on the office, on the commercial side that had space to lease in a downward part of the cycle. Historically, that used this co-working concept as a means of driving some revenue. Problem is that the barriers to entry are very low. WeWork has gone and really created so many of their own barriers to entry through their membership model, offering benefits, group health care, credit card and other payment services, and the network that they created through networking and bringing in experts in different fields to speak and doing social events has really put them on the map in a way that I'm not sure anyone could really replicate right now.
I'm going to ask Jay a question. Sure. You worked in an industry in the residential rental apartment business that a lot of people initially go into their business on their own. Mm-hmm. How many of your friends or people that you've dealt with over the years went into a co-share, a co-working type of environment, maybe rented space at a Regis or similar to the Regis office suite?
A lot of my friends, they're in a lot of different industries. I think more today in the last 3 years, it became more relevant. Not before that, but you're seeing anyone that's in technology, they're all in those type of spaces. I have someone that, he owned his own company. He's like, why do I have all this space? I might as well be at WeWork and keep the costs low, and I have all the benefits of all the amenities that they have. So it's a good percentage of people, but it depends on the field also.
I was at an event where your dad and Adam Newman was speaking about a year and a half ago, and somebody got up and he said, look, I'm a tenant in WeWork and I love it, but what happens is I've grown, and I'm paying you for 22 offices, and I could go to Rudin and be in one of their nice spaces, right, and not pay for that. Does that happen often?
I mean, it happens. It hasn't necessarily happened with us yet. I mean, but the hope is that, and I think it's an internal hope within WeWork, is that these companies start small and grow within their space.
But there's the question that I'm saying that this person had asked Adam at the event was, he said, look, I'm paying X dollars per room. There's a time that I could go to a good landlord, okay? I want my own identity. I really have outgrown what it is, but we'll get to the enterprise in a second. He said, it's costing me a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a cost-benefit analysis.
You want the suite of services, that's what you're paying
but
for.
You know what?
Like anything else.
No, but when you're a small company, you have a certain need. But when you have 30 people working at the company and you have 30 offices, you're paying for 30 offices, the rent could be greater.
Sure, it's a cost. There's a certain point where, depending on the number of employees, you say, okay, it's now time where I'm going to step out of WeWork. And whether you're going to a bigger sort of, a co-working provider who can provide more space at a better cost.
I'm not talking about moving to another co-working.
No, I know. You're talking about moving into our building. I understand.
That's right.
As a regular office space.
As a regular office.
I was going to say before, the hope is that, and this is whether it's residential or commercial, is that people come into our building, and whether that's in a WeWork space or as a direct tenant, and stay for a long time and grow their business or grow their family, whatever the case may be. And so if they've grown out of a WeWork space and it's become cost prohibitive, or it makes more sense for them to now lease their own space directly, great. We'd love to bring them into our portfolio if they're a company that's has the credit that can now afford a long-term 5, 10, 15-year deal. And if we have the space, we'd obviously love to make the room available for them.
One of the nuances that many of the co-working companies have been doing is that they are, WeWork is doing it under their enterprise system, but this company, Industrious, and some other companies I've seen, they've been able to go out to the corporations, saying like Hewlett Packard or TD or Prudential, for you want to have a sub office in different cities, this is a perfect advantage. And also giving you the opportunity to work in this environment.
Yeah, you don't have to take a long-term lease. You don't have to take a dedicated amount of space, right? If you know you're going to have 5 people one year, but 10 people the next year, it's perfect because you can, expand and contract as you need it. And, you can move people around. And it provides a couple things. It provides for your employees access and an environment to other sort of like-minded people, right? It provides maybe sometimes access to talent, right? They might be in there trying to hire people for whatever their business might be, but it's
Hard to
also
put a price tag on that. Right.
So now I ask all 3 of you, what happens when we hit 2009, when the world came to an end temporarily for a couple of years? What effect did it have on the leasing of sharing of apartments?
Well, actually,
Many people went back to mommy and daddy, or
a lot of people did, but not everybody. I actually think that, for a big portion of the city, nobody was really buying, and that really helped the rental market. At my previous company where I worked before on the brokerage side of the business, that firm I worked for had its best year ever. It was because everybody was renting. So we didn't really see it too much on the rental side. Yes, did pricing drop a little bit depending on the neighborhood, and did incentives go up? Absolutely. But it wasn't, as such an impact that we thought it would be, and it kind of sustained it. But we are seeing today with today's rental market, which is definitely in the last few months has been a little touch and go, that a lot of those shares are starting to go away, and they're not willing to pay those high prices, and in certain situations can't afford the rent and are living with mom and dad.
So it's already happening.
Yes, on this cycle.
I would say,
But that's due to supply and demand, as opposed to the cycle.
well, I think on the cycle side, it was 2008, 9, 10, where everything was heading south. WeWork opened their first location in 2010. Pretty bad time to be opening a brand new facility, a brand new company, starting a brand new business. And I think a lot of people forget that a lot of their initial members were people who had probably been laid off in 07, 08, 09, who were saying, hey, it sucks that I got laid off, but I've now got this sort of new freedom. I've always wanted to start my own company, and here is a platform for me to be able to do that. So I think it's a matter of time, right? The next recession will happen whenever it happens. We might be in the beginning of it. We might not be. Who knows? But it's only a matter of time to say whether or not co-working as a business will suffer, will prosper, what will happen. Because I think a lot of companies who tend to go towards co-working facilities are, a little more nimble, can adapt a little bit easier to changes, bigger changes in the market.
I think, as I alluded at the beginning of the program, I said, look, co-living, co-working, and sharing are here to stay. Absolutely. The question is the survival of the fittest, the ones who are well capitalized, the ones that landlords like Rudin Management, Boston Properties, other leading owners are going to feel comfortable, where they're going to make their decision the same way that the banker makes a decision of where you're going to lend. Right. The same way that you lend to people who own multifamily, people who have 4-story walk-ups or so on. You're happy, but it's the question of the evolution. And we've seen the evolution. The evolution has changed from 2010, or even to the times when the other companies went out of business. There were one time, people used to have telephone answering services.
Absolutely.
There was an article in the Times saying there's one left, that people wanted somebody to answer their own phone. Right. So, it's really changed. And I think if we brought this subject up a year from now, we'd have total difference. And it's also a better time to find out where we co-living, and who's going to be survival to be there. Okay, I'd like to thank Michael Rudin, Jay Heydt, and needless to say, the banker, Matt Petrula, and I'll see you next week.